Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. You probably know by now that Deus Ex is one of my favorite games of all time. Used to be my favorite game of all time before Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons took its place, and now it's merely my second favorite game of all time. I reinstall it every couple of years to play it through, and it still keeps surprising me with new things that I didn't notice the previous playthrough. It's really a work of art, even though it's somewhat dated at this point when it comes to some of its game mechanics. Some people keep telling me that there was a game called Deus Ex Invisible War, but I refuse to believe that, so we're just going to ignore that exists. And there is, of course, the follow-up, which was Deus Ex Human Revolution, which was pretty good. Maybe not quite as good as the original, but it certainly had its strong points, and I enjoyed it a great deal. So, of course, when Mankind Divided was announced, I was, needless to say, quite excited. Yes, it's one of the few things that gets inside my jaded, cynical heart these days and gets it beating once again. However, it seems that the old rule applies. A series either dies a hero or lives long enough to see itself become the villain. And today we got the pre-order announcement for Mankind Divided, and it is probably the worst pre-order scheme that I have ever seen. You know I don't like pre-orders. I spoke on this matter a couple of years ago in a video that is simply titled, Should You Pre-Order Video Games? And the advice really remains the same, although there have been a few changes since then which make pre-ordering a little bit safer. A little bit safer. The addition of the Steam refund system, which kicked into effect just in time for the disastrous launch of Batman Arkham Knight, allowed people that were suffering from the game's myriad technical problems to refund it, assuming, of course, that they decided to do it within the first 2 hours of gameplay. Of course, if problems cropped up after that, or you chose to spend time trying to fix it yourself and went over the 2-hour limit, well, you are fresh out of luck. As much as I would like to say that things have got better since my video 2 years ago, I really don't believe that is the case. And of course, Arkham Knight is a prime example of that, as is Assassin's Creed Unity. I mean, last year was chock full of games that had myriad technical problems and issues, and of course all had lovely pre-order schemes attached to them. This time around, however, the Deus Ex Mankind Augment Your Pre-Order campaign probably takes this to a whole new level, combining elements of previous pre-order campaigns into one giant monstrosity, a Frankenstein's monster of pre-order come to devour the townspeople. This pre-order scheme is a multi-headed hydra of terrible. It starts off by claiming that you'll be able to augment your pre-order and customize it. Now, how it suggests that you do this is signing up to their system, pre-ordering the game, and unlocking various tiers of rewards. Now, tiered reward unlocks have been done before in the past. They cropped up on Steam a few years ago. I remember XCOM being an example of that, and there were a couple of other titles that use this system as well. And I'll talk about the reasons why I dislike that a little bit later on in this video, but this particular system takes that to a new level. It combines two horribly insidious ideas: the tiered reward system and retailer exclusive rewards, and it bundles them together into what it calls customizing your loadout. What of course that really means is, of each tier you can only choose one pre-order reward. Yeah. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, they have included a pre-order reward which I think almost everybody dislikes, and that is the exclusive mission. That is available if the total global pre-order amount is high enough to reach tier 3. So we have a piece of content that's ready before release that is being cut out specifically to give to pre-order customers, and the final reward is the one that really takes this cyanide-laced cake. If you reach tier 5, you will be able to play the game 4 days early. 4 days before anyone else. Okay, let's break down the reasons why I absolutely despise this system. So, you know I don't like pre-orders, and the reason that I don't like pre-orders is, of course, that pre-orders are inherently anti-consumer. You're asking a customer to commit to purchasing a game that they haven't played yet and that no real information is available for. So there are no reviews out. All the information that's come out is either from carefully controlled previews or from publisher-released marketing material. And, of course, neither of those can be held up as examples of accuracy or being truly representative of the quality of the final product. Now, you might say, well, you can cancel a pre-order, so where's the harm in that? You can just cancel it before it comes out. Well, there are a couple of reasons as to why this is fairly ineffective. Firstly, cancelling a pre-order is only any good if you have been given just cause to do it. That means if a review has come out prior to release that has warned you that in fact this game might not be up to snuff, then yes, you can cancel a pre-order. However, that relies on a review coming out before the game does, and increasingly, AAA publishers in general are imposing review embargoes that are launch day. This means that it's really impossible to be properly informed when it comes to deciding whether or not you should pre-order, and then after that, whether or not you should decide to cancel it. And then, of course, your money is taken, and that is that. There's not really a huge amount you can do about it other than using the Steam refund system. Now, the Steam refund system is all well and good, but regardless of the fact that we are a PC-centric channel, it's worth pointing out that users of the Xbox and the PlayStation do not have access to such a system. So console gamers are unable to take advantage of that kind of consumer protection. Now, it's also worth noting that pre-release reviews often don't touch on problems that can become apparent later on. Either the reviews haven't finished the game, or they haven't played New Game Plus, or they simply have not explored all the content that's on offer. Indeed, in the case of multiplayer games in particular, problems that creep up later down the line once the metagame shifts to a particular state, which is not the case prior to release, are obviously something that most reviewers cannot cover. This is also the sort of situation where a refund would most likely be useless, because these problems crop up far beyond the 2-hour grace period, after which it becomes increasingly difficult to actually receive a refund. Not impossible in some situations, but increasingly difficult. One final issue is that some technical problems do not occur within review copies of the game and yet occur when it's released on the mass market. There's a real-world example of this: Halo the Master Chief Collection. None of the multiplayer problems that this game is still plagued with to this day, to a greater or lesser extent, were revealed in the pre-release reviews of the title. Why? Because those reviews were all done in a controlled environment. The launch issues with Diablo 3 Era 37, as well as the issues that plagued SimCity upon launch, should all be solid evidence that if a game contains a multiplayer component, you cannot necessarily guarantee that the reviews will be representative of the consumer experience on launch. Now, ignoring all of that, it's worth noting that pre-orders exist for a particular purpose, and it's perhaps a little bit more insidious than you might imagine. It's something that I mentioned in my pre-order video back in 2013. I was quoting the CEO of Shell Games, Jesse Shell, and he was discussing the idea that a pre-order sets you on a particular path, and deviating from that path isn't something that you psychologically want to do. You're sort of locking yourself into a commitment, and you continue to reinforce your desire to see the plan through to the end. Essentially, someone that pre-orders a game is more likely to seek out positive coverage of said game and engage in confirmation bias, which in turn makes it less likely that they would cancel the pre-order regardless of whether or not negative information about the product came to light prior to the game's release. It's a fair point as far as I'm concerned, and you can certainly see the behavior. You need only look at subreddits and gaming forums all over the internet. You see the defenders, the staunch defenders, those saying, yes, this game is going to be amazing, and continuing to extol its virtues before they've even played it. You can call it the fanboy if you so desire, but it is obvious within gaming communities wherever you go, this sort of attitude is pretty rampant. Now, this gets even more insidious when you toss in the idea of tiered pre-order bonuses. So tiered pre-order bonuses, in my view, turn pre-order customers into rabid recruiters for the product. And the reason that I believe that is because the way that tiered pre-order bonuses work is that every time you get a certain number of pre-orders, a new tier unlocks. That means that those that pre-order the game have a vested interest in ensuring that other people pre-order the game. That means that they become evangelists for the product because they have a reason, they have an incentive to do so. They want the higher tiers unlocked, so they're going to try and convince other people to pre-order. And that might not be direct press ganging, it might not be going to their friends and demanding that they pre-order, it might simply be posting positive things on the internet about that game. It may even be something that they don't even realize they're doing, but they have a bias, they have a reason to be doing this, and as a result, a certain portion of those pre-order customers are going to become little more than free PR for the title. You're essentially creating anti-consumer consumers. They are consumers that are actively promoting something which is bad for them in the long run, due to receiving short-term benefits. Needless to say, that is not particularly good. Now, they've managed to make this tiered reward content even worse than usual. Regular tiered reward content is fairly simple. Every time you unlock a tier, you get everything that's on that tier. Most of the time, those tiers just consist of a single reward, so the notion that you might not get everything never even comes up. However, in this case, what they're offering is the ability to choose your reward per tier. Now, that language is deliberate. The idea of customizing your loadout is a specific term that's used within the video. Augment your pre-order. They are pushing language which is trying to convince you that this is good for you, that they're giving you a choice, they're giving you a degree of control. In reality, of course, that's absolutely not true. Yes, you are given a choice, but what you're really choosing is what content you don't receive, as opposed to what content you do receive. Choose your reward is code for even if you pre-order, you still can't get all of the content. This system makes it essentially impossible for you to buy the complete game, since you have to choose between mutually exclusive rewards per tier. Now, in the best case scenario, all of this stuff will be available in-game regardless. It's possible. It may be giving you a head start. And you know, I've never really liked those pre-order bonuses. I mean, why would I want to make the game easier? Deus Ex Human Revolution had some pre-order bonuses as well that involved giving you a huge amount of cash. I don't want you to give me in-game cash. The whole idea of progression and actually acquiring that cash for myself is an integral part of the game. It encourages you to explore the environment, and if you take that away and you make the game easier, you actually take away from my experience, which is why I tend to avoid those at all costs. I wouldn't want that sort of thing. I don't want to be given a super powerful weapon at the start of a game that would affect the overall ramp-up of difficulty and the actual pacing of the title. That's counterproductive. Why would I want that? That's more of a punishment as opposed to a reward. Now, while the video makes absolutely no mention of what these packs actually contain, the website does. So the Intruder Pack contains a custom-skinned version of Adam's trenchcoat and pistol, including a silencer, laser, recoil, and accuracy upgrade, 2 AMP grenades, 5 packs of 10mm pistol ammo, 1,000 credits, and a praxis point to boost your proficiency in the augmentation of your choice. The Enforcer Pack is quite similar. It gives you combat armor with, again, a custom skin, a customized combat rifle, ammunition, credits, and a praxis point, and the Classic Pack gives the iconic combat armor, trenchcoat, revolver from Deus Ex Human Revolution, and so on and so forth. Now, if you looked at that at first glance, it would indicate that the content is cosmetic only, but I'm not 100% sure that that's true. Particularly the Classic Pack makes mention of the revolver from Deus Ex Human Revolution. Now, is it possible to acquire that revolver in-game? We just don't know that. It may very well be an exclusive weapon, and it would seem that the cosmetic items in particular are certainly exclusives and most likely cannot be acquired in-game via normal means. Is that as offensive as locking other kinds of content behind a pre-order wall? No. Is it still a pain in the arse? Does it still say to me, look, you're not getting the complete experience? Absolutely. These pre-order exclusives that were available on a retailer-by-retailer basis were bad enough, but in this case, it's essentially saying to you, look, you get to pick one, and you don't get all of the content that we have on offer on launch. So it's a combination of getting a needless boost, which makes the game easier, as well as potentially having content that you can't access. That's particularly awful. Now, the thing is that, in my opinion, mutually exclusive pre-order bonuses actually encourage piracy. They're not the sort of thing that you really want to do. The term, the pirated copy is the superior version, is something that crops up on subreddits and forums quite often, and it actually ends up being true when you run into a situation where there are pre-order bonuses spread across multiple retailers. More often than not, the pirated copy has all of this stuff unlocked. And of course, piracy also means that the game is free. So you're giving gamers a lot of excuses to engage in piracy, and you are turning them against you as a company, which means that they may even feel justified in doing so. They're sticking it to the man by doing so. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think that you should be pirating games just because there was a business decision that you disagree with. That doesn't entitle you to the game for free. But my opinion doesn't really matter. People are going to do it anyway, and the last thing you want to do is be providing an inferior product to the pirated version. Gabe Newell said it time and time and time again. The best way to combat piracy is by providing a better service than the pirates do. And this is doing the exact opposite of that. Now, that nasty poisonous cherry on top of it, the 4-day early release. Now, this has been done with MMOs, but I don't recall this ever happening with a single-player AAA release. If there was a time, then by all means let me know, but I don't remember it, certainly over the last few years. So, what's the problem with a 4-day early release? There's a couple of issues with this. Firstly, staggered release increases the possibility that players will get spoiled. Now, spoilers are a problem. We had this discussion in regards to Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain and an early Let's Play of the game that was being released. Some people were even avoiding reviews for fear of spoilers, and I don't necessarily blame them because some reviews do include spoilers, and it's perhaps worth avoiding that. But when you give the game to certain consumers 4 days prior to the main release, the risk of there being spoilers leaked all over the internet is absolutely massive. It's not the same as a games journalist or a YouTuber that does critique for a living getting an early review copy, because it's in their best interests for those pieces of content not to contain spoilers, because they'll upset their audience, they'll get less views. That's not what you want. I go out of my way to avoid spoilers. The vast majority of reviewers go out of their way to avoid spoilers. It's in their best interest to do so. It is not in consumers' best interest to do so. The risk of spoilers has become a big deal over the past few years, and it's become a very easy way to upset people, troll, and harass people. And that certainly isn't what you want, isn't it? And yes, I realize it's not the biggest deal in the universe. It's very much a first world problems, but it's undoubtedly still bothersome. Now, the fact that there is a increased risk of spoilers means that people that want to avoid spoilers are pressured into pre-ordering. Absolutely, because they wish to get the game at the same time as everybody else, and they're ensuring that they don't end up spoiled and having their experience lessened as a result. It really increases this divide between the haves and have-nots, and frankly, I'm really not okay with that. At least with MMOs, there's something of a practical benefit to it. If you stagger the release, then you ensure that the launch day is not as problematic. There are less technical issues, there are less people camping quests and all that sort of thing, there are less people bundled into the same area. It's actually potentially beneficial to those that don't get the head start to go in a little bit later, because it'll be easier for them to actually do the content. But in this case, there is absolutely no benefit to everybody. This is a case of giving something to people that have taken the risk to pre-order and denying it to others. But if you want a way to create resentment amongst your consumer base, that's it in a nutshell right there. My conclusion on this topic, based on everything that I've just said, is that the Deus Ex Mankind divided pre-order system is probably one of the worst that I've ever seen. It's an amalgamation of everything that I absolutely hate about pre-order culture, and it's really disappointing to see this coming from a storied and venerated series and from a publisher like Square-Enix, who should really know better by this point. Make no mistake about it, as a result of this pre-order system, they are selling you an incomplete experience. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Even if you cut everything else out, the fact that there's still an exclusive mission means that the content is incomplete. When you do this, you're not rewarding customers for pre-ordering, you're punishing those that don't. And that to me is absolutely the wrong way to do business. I don't see any way around that. I can't see a way to wangle it, I can't see a way to sneak around it, or hand-wring your way out of that situation. It is a punishment for those that choose to be smart consumers. And I'm never gonna be okay with that. Absolutely not. I certainly hope that Square-Enix takes a long, hard look at the reaction to this pre-order scheme and redesigns it to be more consumer-friendly. Not that a pre-order can really ever be truly consumer-friendly, but there are degrees. There really are. And when it comes to the circle of pre-order hell, this is the 9th. There's no doubt about that. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.